Y así es, chavitos, brothers y brothercitas. ¿Cómo ven que JD Vance se lanzó a The View, brothers? Esto sí, yo no lo podía creer cuando lo vi ahí en el estudio. Dije, ¿qué este güey qué hace ahí? Bueno, pues se fue a The View y a todas estas urracas, a todas estas arpías de la televisión que solamente critican cada cosa que hace JD Vance, Trump, Marco Rubio, todo lo critican y lo odian. Fue ahí, las educó y las puso en su lugar. Qué bonito lo hizo JD Vance, respetuosamente, con conocimiento, súper articulado al hablar. O sea, así se habla, cara. Vean esto, brothers.
Mr. Vice President, thank you for being with us. Now, you came into office with clear momentum, but when I talk to my friends and family who supported you and the president and still support you and the president, one issue comes up time and time again, and it's the economy. Inflation's up, wages are down, gas prices are starting to drop at news of this Iran deal, which we will get to.
Sure.
What can you say to voters who trusted you to lower costs on day one, and will they be satisfied by November?
Well, I think that's ultimately up to the voters, right? I think voters have every right to expect as much as possible out of their elected representatives. We certainly know that we were elected on a number of mandates. One was to close the border, which I think we've done successfully, exceeded expectations there. Number two was to lower prices, and there's a lot of work to do, in large part because of what's happened over the last few months in the Middle East. But as you said, oil, which got up to $120 a barrel, now is at $80 a barrel. That's going to be reflected in lower fuel, lower food, lower energy prices. But there's a lot more work to do. The thing that I'm proudest about most, because as some of you may know, I grew up in one of these towns that was forgotten by the leaders in Washington of both parties, is that you're seeing, that's Middletown, Ohio. That's my hometown in southwestern Ohio. It was a proud steel town. I was raised by a grandfather who was a union steel worker, is that those jobs disappeared. Those factories closed down. The thing that I'm most excited about is you do see a large amount of capital investment coming into our country. Factories being built, construction jobs are way up, manufacturing jobs are starting to catch up.
Que es justamente lo que está haciendo Trump. Trump está trayendo, como dice él, fábricas de regreso que vengan a invertir a Estados Unidos para crear trabajos en fábricas, que es justamente lo que perdimos desde Clinton. Clinton desde el 90, de los 90s, Clinton empezaron en forma colectiva, no fue el único, fue Clinton, después fue Bush, fue Obama, fueron todos así hacia afuera. Empezaron a dar trabajos, como que se pusieron todos de acuerdo y hicieron millonario a China, hicieron millonario a otros países, y a Estados Unidos le quitaron todas sus fábricas, toda su infraestructura para hacer ese tipo de cosas. Si ustedes se acuerdan, brothers, cuando vivíamos en nuestros países, yo todo lo que veía bien hecho decía Made in USA, todo. Calcetas, tenis, o sea, todo. Made in USA, lo que estaba súper bien hecho, excelente calidad. Lo empezaron a mandar a China y ya todo es Made in China. Y es terrible calidad. Todo eso se perdió. ¿Qué está haciendo Trump? Lo quiere traer de regreso. Y esos trabajos que está aumentando en la economía son trabajos de verdad. Biden, en su época de los 4 años, lo que hizo fue aumentar trabajos federales, que son trabajos para el gobierno. O sea, entonces, ¿quién termina pagando? Pues el gobierno de nuestros propios taxes. No están generando ningún bien, ningún producto. Estos trabajos federales son trabajos para el FBI, para el IRS, para las agencias federales, que nosotros los ciudadanos pagamos con nuestros propios taxes. Entonces, sí, se ve que Biden levantó empleos, pero eran todos empleos federales. Por eso Trump tuvo que correr a mucha gente y traer empleos de verdad, que generan productos, que generan bienes, que generan servicios para el país, y es lo que está haciendo.
There's a lot more work to do. I think that we're making progress, but ultimately we're going to make our pitch to the voters in November, and they're the ones who get to decide whether we've done a good job or not, and that's how they're going to vote.
Okay. So President Trump has called affordability a hoax. He said that, not me. He's pouring money into this ballroom of his and the reflecting pool. Oh, don't forget the Arch de Trump, I call it. And a White House cage.
Aquí se me hace como que JD Vance está yendo a hablar con la suegra celosa, tóxica, que es la que defiende a la hija. Que la hija está normal, está contenta con el esposo, pero la mamá es like, y entonces, y bla, 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 y bla, bla, bla. O sea, pobrecito, güey.
Match. All these things. Why is he doing them when you just, everybody knows that Americans are struggling? What is he spending all this money for?
Well, I got to defend the president on the hoax point. What the president said is the idea that Republicans caused the affordability problem is a hoax. And I think that's true. If you go back to the Biden administration, inflation got up to 9% under the Biden administration, okay? Right now it's at 3.5%. By the way, too high. We're doing everything that we can to bring it back down to 2.5%, which is where most people would like to see it. But we inherited an affordability problem. We're doing a lot to make it better. It's going to take a little bit of time. There's a lot more work to do. But the president knows that a lot of Americans are struggling. In fact, he ran on that. He talked about it. And we've done some things and made some good progress on that point.
He just said he loves the inflation.
What he said, Anna, what he said is that he
La otra tóxica suegra.
loves the fact that the inflation is going to come down when this war is over. That's what he said.
That's not what he said.
That wasn't a direct.
Are you his, are you his interpreter or are you his vice president? Come on.
Well, look. What the president said. People were asking about the inflation. They were asking about the affordability problem, which again is very real. And what he said is, "I love the inflation because it's going to come down when the war is over." And now, again, we already see gas prices. Gas prices today, $4.06 a gallon, too high, but way down from where they were just a couple of weeks ago. So there's a lot we got to do, but I think that
Sí,
we're...
el barril de petróleo ahorita, brothers, está en $80, por ahí está. Ha bajado increíblemente. La semana pasada que hice un programa al respecto del precio, estaba en 87 y los costos de gasolina se están viendo bajar. Entonces va a ser como un dominó. Empieza a bajar la gasolina, la primer ficha se cae y todos los demás precios van a ir cayendo poco a poco. Ayer fui a Costco a comprar carne, carísima la carne, como que volvió a subir. Y dices, putza, o sea, ya nada más puedo comer patas de pollo, güey. O sea, está carísimo, pero es lo mismo. Está cayendo todo como es el efecto de dominó. Cae el petróleo y empieza a caer todos los precios.
Doing as much as we can. We're going to keep on working at it. And again, the American people are going to make their verdict. But I think that we have a very credible case to run on, that we brought a lot of new investment. We're building the factories. That is going to pay serious dividends for the American people over the long haul.
When?
Well, Joy, if you look at manufacturing jobs,
Okay.
those jobs are increasing at a large number. Construction jobs are doing a little bit better. So what happens is the construction jobs to build the factories, and then the manufacturing workers go back to work. That also leads to rising wages. That's one of the things that I'm very proud of, is if you look at the amount that wages are going up now compared to, say, 2022, they're going up way faster. That's a good thing. You know, the affordability problem. Again, gas, way too high right now. Certain things way too high. You know, rents have been either flat or down for 12 months now. So there are things that are showing signs of life, things that are showing signs of progress. My view, I'm sure you guys don't agree with it, is that we inherited a mess and we're fixing it. But sometimes it takes a long time to fix a mess.
Sonny.
Okay. Mr. Vice President.
Literalmente era un mes. O sea, Estados Unidos era un excusado atascado en porquería, güey. Y están ahorita empezando así como a que sacar para arreglar, pero era literalmente un problema.
According to a new report from the New York Times, you were the leading voice behind the scenes to release the Epstein files, and we applaud you for that. And you warned top officials, including top DOJ officials, at strategy meetings taking place inside the Situation Room. We understand that there are tapes of those meetings, that this was a huge problem for the base. The report says you even floated having Tucker Carlson interview Ghislaine Maxwell to clear the president's name, but you were rebuffed by your people. Why?
Well, I'd say, first of all, don't believe everything that you read in any newspaper, whether it's a right-leaning paper or a left-leaning paper, because as you guys know, well, there are things that are true, things that are false, and things that are totally missing context. Well, here's what I'll say. So, number one, I am frankly kind of a conspiracy theory on the Epstein stuff, and that story says that that's one of the things that's true, is that some people called me a conspiracy theory on the Epstein stuff.
Called you a conspiracy
and I love
theorist.
Susie, but absolutely, she thinks I'm a conspiracy theorist on the Epstein stuff, because I think that it's crazy that you had this guy who is clearly a sex predator who is hanging out with a lot of very wealthy and powerful people. Like, that really bothered me. I don't know what's there, of course. Nobody knows exactly what happened unless you were there, but that really bothered me, and I wanted to have full transparency. What I disagree with is the idea that the White House wasn't committed to full transparency. We have to remember, like, I was inside the room when some of these decisions were made.
Eso es muy cierto, brothers. O sea, Trump corrió su campaña diciendo que iba a sacar los files y que iba a ser transparente. Y lo hizo. Ahora, que no hay pruebas, porque desgraciadamente los presidentes antes de Trump, a lo mejor, no sé, supuesta y alegadamente, se deshicieron de pruebas, evidencias, tapes y todo eso para no agarrarlo. pues ya es otra cosa, güey. Pero Trump sacó los files. O sea, nadie le puede negar eso. ¿Por qué no le preguntan a los presidentes pasados como Joe Biden, como Obama? ¿Por qué nunca hicieron nada al respecto? ¿Y por qué, de casualidad, sus departamentos del FBI, el DOJ, el Departamento de Justicia, se deshicieron de pruebas? O sea, eso es una buena pregunta, yo creo, ¿no? Pero Trump sacó los files.
Epstein Files Transparency Act, the one that the president signed, the one that led to all these files that we're seeing, the emails. By the way, again, sorry, Joe, I do have to defend my boss. I know you guys don't always appreciate this, but you know, one of the things you see in the Epstein emails is that Jeffrey Epstein hated Donald Trump, and that Donald Trump literally reported Jeffrey Epstein to the police. That's one of the things that came out of these
They were
files.
best friends for about a decade. And remember, he signed that Transparency Act under duress when some Republican women, congresswomen like Lauren Boebert, like Marjorie Taylor Greene, did not give in to his pressure of not signing. He brought Lauren Boebert into the Situation Room,
Que se calle la gorda.
pressure her into caving on not voting for that bill.
So let me respond to that. So
That's all true.
Let me respond to that. So number one is, yes, Donald Trump, and he said this, he knew Jeffrey Epstein back in the 1980s. He also threw Jeffrey Epstein out of his club when he found out he was a creep and reported him to the police. That's something that the media often misses when it reports the story.
Y de hecho, él debería de decir, J.D. Vance, no sé si lo va a decir ahorita, pero debería decir que justamente cuando lo reportó a la policía Trump a Jeffrey Epstein por ser un degenerado que iba a Mar-a-Lago a tratar de contratar chavitas para llevárselas, ahí lo acusó Trump con la policía y Trump se volvió un informante del FBI. Yo lo enseñé aquí con documentos del FBI narrando ese momento donde Trump se vuelve informante. Y gracias a que Trump ayuda al FBI, arrestan a Epstein en el 2007, 2008. Después, ya lo que pasa después, pues que le dan un deal, le ponen un castigo chiquititito a Epstein, es otra cosa. Pero Trump lo metió a la cárcel, brother. O sea, en ese tipo de casos, cuando va alguien a corte, brothers, se destapan 1000 cloacas. Si tú tienes algo que tienes malo que ver con el güey que van a arrestar, ¿por qué lo vas a meter a la cárcel si te van a llevar a ti también? Porque algo va a salir que te va a llevar, te va a jalar. Si es que hiciste cosas malas. Obviamente Trump no hizo cosas malas porque lo acusó y lo metió al bote y lo metieron en juicio y no encontraron nada de Trump, obviamente, porque Trump no estaba en juicio, pero ese güey sí, y lo metieron a la cárcel, lo sacan en el 2009. Obama, que es presidente en el 2008, no lo mete a la cárcel otra vez a Epstein. Obama dura hasta el 2016, gana Trump las elecciones en el 2017, ¿y qué pasa? Lo mete a la cárcel otra vez a Epstein, le hacen otro juicio y lo mete a la cárcel otra vez. O sea, si hubiera habido cosas que Trump hizo con Epstein, hubieran salido en el segundo juicio de Epstein. Obviamente no tenían nada que jalar a Trump para estar ahí metido con Epstein. Y lo mete a la cárcel. Ya que lo hayan desvivido en la cárcel es otra cosa, un año o dos después. Pero güey, o sea...
The fact that they knew each other in the 80s, which the president himself admits, they ignore the fact that he narked on him to the police and led ultimately to Jeffrey Epstein's downfall. To that point, Anna, you know the Republican Party. Well, it's one of the things that led to law enforcement investigation. But on the point that you made,
it was allegedly over a real estate deal that they got into a fight over.
But the email says actually
they didn't just know each other. Let's just be truthful and transparent here. They didn't just know each other.
Pues esta vieja está diciendo que está mintiendo J.D. Vance y le está diciendo hay que ser truthful. Güey, él está siendo truthful. Tú eres la que quiere a huevo hacer entender o ver a la gente que Trump hizo cosas malas con Jeffrey Epstein. Esa vieja por eso la deberían demandar, güey. Eso está muy cañón, ese tipo de allegations, ese tipo de acusaciones sin pruebas, brothers, son muy delicadas. No se vale, güey.
They were incredibly close friends.
He reported him to the police. That's what I'm saying. That is objective. That is objectively true. But Anna made another point that I think I would be if I may, because Anna made a very important point. This question about did Donald Trump release these files only under duress from Republicans? And Anna, you know the Republican Party probably better than I do. The idea that Donald Trump runs around afraid of Republican congressmen as opposed to the other way around is kind of crazy.
What was a bipartisan, it was Republicans and Democrats.
But because the Republicans control the House and the Senate, particularly the Senate, you need the Republican sign-off. What the president did is, look, I will say this. Again, I was in there in the meetings. He was very frustrated that the Democrats were making this about him when he's like, look, I threw the guy out of my club. I am the guy who reported him to the police, or one of the people who reported him to the police. The president was frustrated about that, absolutely. But he eventually came to say, you know what, let's just get everything out there. Let's have this out in the public. And he actually called the senators. I was there. He called the senators and said, you know what, pass this bill, I'll sign it. And that was it.
Well, then let me follow up briefly. Let me follow up briefly.
Yes.
It sounds like you believed that there would be men in the files who would be held accountable. Rightfully so. And the American people are with you on this. Why haven't we seen the release of over 2.5 million additional Epstein file documents?
Esa es una muy buena pregunta, brothers. Esa sí, le doy la razón. Pam Bondi solamente sacó la mitad de los files. Dijeron que iban a sacarlos todos. Quedan como 3 millones de files que no han sacado. Y esa pregunta de por qué no los han sacado, esa sí es muy válida, totalmente válida.
It seems like you are someone that is on the right side of history on this.
So we have released, I think it's 6 million files or 6 million pages of documents. My understanding is the 2.5 million, Sonny. I'm going to check on this to make sure, but my understanding is that a lot of those are duplicates of things that have already been released.
So then we're not
holding anything back. Some of those things are like the courts have to order you to release them. So that was one thing that we confronted. You talk about this situation in meetings is, you know, there was a big bunch of files that existed, I think in the Southern District of New York, or maybe it was some other jurisdiction, but we were like, we want to release these files, but you need the court approval in order to release
Y
them.
eso es cierto también lo que dice J.D. Vance, porque también cuando iban a sacar más files, los demócratas que según ellos quieren que todo salga, mentira, le dijeron a los jueces que pararan que sacara los files. Ahora vamos a recordar algo, brothers. Aquí le están tirando a Trump que él no quería sacar los files, cuando él fue el único que los ha sacado. Pero si ese es el caso, ¿por qué no los sacó Biden? ¿No los demócratas querían que salieran los files, supuestamente? Pues ¿por qué no convencieron a Biden de que lo hiciera cuando Biden tenía la House y tenía los senadores? Nunca lo hizo Biden. ¿Por qué no lo hizo Obama? Supuestamente los demócratas querían que todo el mundo supiera todo, ¿no? ¿Por qué no lo hizo Obama? Es que se dejen de jaladas, güey. Es puro choro político para tratar de ver mal a Trump.
Sometimes we would apply to release the files and the courts would say no. So those particular documents, I would need to actually know exactly what you're talking about.
3.5 million documents were released, and my understanding is 2.5 million have not been released.
Those may have been the ones that are under court. So I don't know what the documents you're talking about, but I'm telling you,
Let me go to break. Let me go to break.
Sure.
Let me go to break.
Y se van a break, pero brothers, pues aquí... Está cañón. Yo, la verdad, me encanta cómo les aclara las cosas este tipo, J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance es algo que tiene mucho como Marco Rubio. Son muy bien articulados al hablar, explican bien las cosas. Creo que Marco Rubio es todavía mejor que J.D. Vance, pero J.D. Vance es excelente a hacer esto. Mucho mejor que Trump, los dos. En mi forma de ver, Trump es apasionado, Trump no es político, no sabe hablar como ellos. Trump es bla, sin filtro, le vale gorro, y si lo entendiste bien, y si no, no. Y de ahí han salido varios malos entendidos, por ejemplo, de que lo de la inflación era un hoax, era una mentira. Pues no lo puedes decir así solito nada más, güey, porque si no, te lo echan en cara. ¿Cómo es una mentira si yo no puedo, no me alcanza para pagar la carne, no me alcanza para la renta? No es una mentira, güey. Para lo que se refería a Trump, y la traducción es, no, güey, nosotros no causamos la inflación, la causaron los demócratas con Biden y estamos arreglándolo. Esa es la mentira, que nosotros no causamos la inflación. Entonces, es el tipo de cosas que Trump no sabe explicar. No sabe explicar. Lo mismo le pasó con Epstein. Cuando decían, ¿y los files cuándo los hagas? Hasta que un día explotó y dijo, pues, o sea, olvídense de los files, no quiero hablar de eso, bla, bla, bla. Pero a lo que se refería era, güey, ya lo sacamos, dejen de ser jaladas, y eso es un hoax que ustedes, los demócratas, están haciendo para verme hacer mal a mí, cuando yo soy el único que lo saqué. Pero no lo explicó así. ¿Y qué hacen los demócratas? Pues se agarran de ahí para tirarle. Y es por eso que es muy importante que él, J.D. Vance y Marco Rubio salgan a expresar y explicar ese tipo de temas que son importantísimos, güey. Pero bueno, déjenme saber qué piensan ustedes, chavitos, los leo en los comentarios. Me interesa, ya saben, siempre ando tratando de contestar todos los mensajes y comentarios. Díganme qué piensan, suscríbanse y compartan. Esto estuvo muy bueno. Los amo.